They say that long before men built their stone cities, before words were carved into scrolls and laws were chained to kings, the realm of Elarion was ruled by the harmony of voices. The voices of beasts, rivers, winds, and stars. In that time, every creature carried a spark of the great flame, the living breath of the Eternal One. Lions spoke to eagles, wolves reasoned with deer, and no being was born without purpose. But harmony is a fragile thing. It lives only as long as truth is remembered. And this story, my child, is about one who forgot who he was and nearly silenced the roar that once made mountains tremble. On the night of the crimson moon, when the sky burned red like molten gold, a storm swept across the plains of Elarion. In the heart of the valley, where the riverless shimmered like liquid starlight, a lioness named Queen Soraya labored beneath the storm's cry. The heavens wept as thunder shook the mountains. When the winds settled, her cub was born, small, golden, and trembling. His cry was weak but pure, echoing faintly against the rocks. The queen smiled, though her breath grew shallow. "Auren," she whispered, "your name means light reborn. Carry the flame for those who will forget it." Moments later, her eyes closed forever. The storm took her body, and dawn took her warmth. By sunrise, the valley was silent, save for the faint cries of a motherless cub.
That same morning, a flock of sheep from the nearby Velin meadows wandered close to the river. Their leader, a kind but timid ram named Eldon, heard the cub's wails. At first, they thought it was a trick of the wind, perhaps the growl of a predator. But when they found the cub, drenched and shivering, Eldon's heart softened. "He's just a babe," said Eldon, his voice trembling. "Left to die. No creature deserves that." "Leave him," warned the elder Ewe, Mara. "He's not one of us." But Eldon could not. Against the murmurs of the flock, he carried the cub back to the meadow. And so began the strangest chapter in the history of Elarion, the day a lion was raised among sheep.
Seasons passed. The cub grew. He learned to bleat instead of roar, to graze instead of hunt, to follow instead of lead. The sheep called him Auren the Odd One. His golden coat was brighter, his paws heavier, but his spirit was gentle. He loved stories, songs, and the warmth of the herd. He believed the world ended at the edge of the meadow, beyond which lay darkness and death. Eldon often said, "Safety lies in sameness, my son. The field feeds us, the night devours us." And so Auren believed. He tried to mimic their steps, lower his proud head, and chewed tender grass like them, even though something deep within him stirred every time he looked at the mountains. Sometimes at twilight, he'd see his reflection in the stream and feel wrong. The shape staring back wasn't soft and woolly like his kin. It was fierce, sharp, powerful, and terrifying. Each time that feeling rose, he'd look away quickly, ashamed. One autumn evening, as the flock grazed beneath the golden trees, the wind shifted. The scent of the forest carried whispers of danger. Something wild was moving nearby. The elder sheep grew restless. Even Eldon's calm began to crack. From the edge of the woods came a shadow, moving low and silent. It was Ravok, a black wolf with eyes like cold iron. He circled the meadow, watching the flock's every move. That night, Auren couldn't sleep. He heard the wolf's cry echoing through the hills, not just a howl, but words, ancient and bitter. Who hides the heart of fire among the meek? Who buries thunder in silence? Auren shivered. Something in those words burned through his chest. The next day, Ravok struck. The flock scattered in terror, white bodies dashing through the fog. Eldon tried to hold his ground, but was quickly overpowered. Auren, caught between fear and instinct, froze. His body wanted to fight, claws twitching, muscles trembling, but his mind screamed the only thing he'd ever been taught: run. So he ran. But when he looked back, he saw Eldon bleeding, surrounded by wolves. A voice deeper than his fear thundered inside him, not from outside, but from within. Enough. Without thinking, Auren charged. His roar, the first of his life, erupted like a storm through the valley. It startled even him. The wolves turned. Ravok stopped mid-strike, eyes wide. "Impossible," the wolf hissed. "The child of fire still lives?" Auren didn't understand those words. He only knew his body moved like lightning, his strength fierce and ancient. The wolves fled. Silence followed. But the flock, instead of cheering, looked at him in terror. What are you?" one whispered. "He roared," said another, "like a beast." Eldon, barely breathing, reached for him. "Auren, my son, don't let fear make you forget kindness." Then the old ram's eyes dimmed. Auren fell to the ground, trembling. He didn't understand. He had saved them, yet they recoiled as if he were the enemy. When dawn came, the flock gathered. Mara spoke for them. "He's no sheep. He's a curse. His roar will bring more wolves. We cannot keep him." Auren begged them to understand, but his words only frightened them more. Finally, Mara lowered her head. "Leave before the sun sets." He left without a sound. The meadow that had been his home now seemed small and gray. Every step away from it felt like stepping into another life, one he did not yet understand. The wind whispered his name, the trees bowed as he passed, and somewhere in the distance, the echo of a familiar voice murmured, a voice like his mother's. The light cannot live forever in shadow. Days turned to weeks. Auren wandered the wilderness alone. He learned to drink from rivers, to rest in caves, to fear nothing but the silence within his own heart. One night, as he lay beneath the stars, he dreamed of a great white eagle descending from the heavens. Its wings shimmered like frost, its eyes ancient and kind. "Auren," said the eagle, "you were never meant to graze. You were meant to guard." When he awoke, the vision lingered, and a single white feather lay beside him. He picked it up, heart pounding. He did not yet know it, but Elder Maru had marked him. The time of awakening had begun. The days that followed Auren's exile were long and silent. The sun, once warm upon his back, now seemed distant and cold. He walked through miles of grass that whispered like ghosts, each stalk bending as though bowing to something they remembered, something he had forgotten. He hunted nothing. He fed only on wild berries and the bitter roots that clung to the riverbanks. Hunger gnawed at his ribs. Loneliness gnawed at his heart. At night, he dreamed of the meadow, not as it was, but as a prison of soft walls and gentle lies. Sometimes, in the darkness, he still heard the voice of Eldon, his adoptive father. "Safety lies in sameness, my son." But those words now felt like chains, and he began to wonder, was safety ever meant to be his destiny? One morning, as the mist lifted, he came upon a wide valley carved with old stones. Strange carvings covered them, symbols of wings, fire, and crowns. And there, upon the tallest rock, stood the very being from his dream.
Elder Maru, the white eagle, stood with wings half spread, his feathers gleaming like shards of moonlight. His eyes, golden and ancient, pierced through Auren's soul. "You found me sooner than I expected," said Maru, his voice deep, echoing like wind in caverns. Auren bowed instinctively. "Who are you?" "I am called many things," replied the eagle. "Watcher, teacher, guardian of the flame. But to you, I am a mirror, the kind that shows what cannot be seen with the eyes." The lion frowned. "I came seeking nothing. I only wish to survive." The eagle's gaze softened. "Survival is what the lost call living. You were not born to survive, Auren. You were born to awaken." Auren turned away. "I'm no king, no warrior. I am nothing." Maru spread his wings, the wind rippling through his feathers. "You speak as one who has been told what he is, not as one who knows. The meadow taught you silence. I will teach you sound." The eagle struck his staff, a long branch carved with runes against the ground. The valley trembled, and from the cliffs, hundreds of echoes answered back, each one carrying Auren's faint roar from the day of the attack. "Listen," said Maru. "Even the mountains remember your voice." Auren stared, his heart pounding. For the first time since his exile, he did not feel alone. Days turned into weeks. Under Elder Maru's guidance, Auren began to learn. The eagle taught him the language of wind, the discipline of silence, the patience of stone. Yet Auren's greatest battle was not against the wilderness, it was against his own reflection. Maru took him to a still lake hidden deep within the cliffs. "This is the mirror pool," said the eagle. "Every creature who seeks truth must stand here and face what they have buried." Auren peered into the water. For a moment, he saw only his reflection, tired, scarred, eyes heavy with doubt. Then ripples spread across the surface and the image shifted. He saw flashes, the meadow, Eldon's dying eyes, the wolves, his roar. Behind it all, a faint image of a lioness with fire in her mane. "Mother!" he whispered. The eagle's tone turned solemn. "Queen Soraya, the guardian of the flame. Your mother's blood flows through you. She perished protecting the last fragment of the eternal fire, the roar that keeps balance in Elarion. When she fell, her flame scattered, and so did your memory." Auren trembled. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because the world forgets what it fears. And power, my young lion, terrifies the weak." Tears rolled down Auren's face and fell into the water. The reflection rippled again, now the image of a cub turning away from his own light. "I don't want to be feared," he whispered. "Then learn to be respected," said Maru. "Fear fades, truth endures."
But far from the valley, in the shadows of the ironwood forest, Ravok, the black wolf, plotted his revenge. He had followed Auren's trail, hidden among the fog. In the heart of his lair burned a strange green flame, a corruption of the eternal fire stolen long ago by his ancestors. Beside him crouched his mate, Vera, lean and cunning. "He still lives," she hissed, "the cub who roared like thunder." Ravok bared his teeth. "He lives because I let him. The prophecy says the cub will rise when the mountain answers his roar. I will make sure his voice is never heard again." He turned toward the flame, speaking to it as though it could hear. "Give me the shadow's gift," he growled. "Let me silence the flame forever." The green fire flared, his eyes glowed with it, and from that moment, Ravok was no longer just a wolf. He was something darker, a vessel for silence itself. One night, lightning struck the mountains. The storm rolled like 1,000 drums. Elder Maru watched the horizon with unease. "The shadow has awakened," he said. Auren raised his head. "Ravok?" "Yes, and he carries something older than hatred. The shadow flame feeds on doubt. If it reaches this valley, even your roar will turn against you." Auren stood, his claws digging into the earth. "Then teach me to fight." The eagle's voice hardened. "Fight? No. You must remember, there is no weapon greater than truth." Maru lifted his staff. The wind gathered around them, shaping a spiral of dust. "Close your eyes. Listen to the silence between your heartbeats. That is where the roar sleeps." Auren obeyed. Inside his mind, he heard faint sounds, whispers, memories, fragments of songs. Then, deeper still, a pulse. With each breath, it grew louder, steadier, until it became a sound older than thunder. When he opened his eyes, the valley trembled. "You felt it," said Maru. "The flame beneath the ashes." But before Auren could answer, a howl split the sky, a sound so sharp it shattered the echoes around them. The wolf had come. The clouds tore open as Ravok emerged from the shadows. His form had changed, his fur shimmered with black fire, his eyes burning emerald green. "So," sneered Ravok, "the lost prince of the flame hides with birds and ghosts." Auren stepped forward, unflinching. "I don't know what I am, but I know what I'm not. Your prey." Ravok's laughter shook the cliffs. Bold words from a creature who once ate grass. He lunged. The valley exploded in chaos, claws against teeth, lightning against flame. The earth itself split under their fury. Auren fought with instinct, each strike guided not by rage, but by something purer, the echo of his mother's voice, the wisdom of the eagle, the pain of loss. Still, Ravok's shadow flame was stronger. Every blow Auren landed seemed to feed it. The wolf's body multiplied, a dozen silhouettes dancing in the storm. Elder Maru soared overhead, crying out incantations, his feathers glowing. "Auren, the lake!
Remember the reflection." Auren stumbled back toward the mirror pool, blood in his fur. The water had turned dark with storm clouds, but beneath it glowed a faint golden light, the remnant of his mother's flame. Ravok lunged one last time, fangs wide. Auren roared.
The sound that followed was not mere noise. It was creation remembering itself. The roar shook the mountains, tore through the valley, and reached the very edges of Elarion. Trees bent, rivers rose, and every creature, great and small, felt their hearts tremble. The shadow flame in Ravok's chest flickered, then shattered. The wolf was hurled into the darkness, his body dissolving into the mist. When silence returned, Auren collapsed. The mirror pool glowed brighter than the sun, and from its depths rose a spectral form, Queen Soraya, radiant and proud. "My son," she said softly, her voice like a melody remembered. "The flame never died. It only waited for you to breathe." Tears filled Auren's eyes. "I thought I had lost everything." "No," said Soraya, "you found yourself." She touched her paw to his forehead. "But the path is not over. The flame must be carried back to the world that forgot it, to those still living in fear." As she faded, her words lingered. "A lion's true kingdom is not of land, but of hearts he awakens."
When morning came, the valley was reborn. The storm had cleared. The air shimmered with gold. Elder Maru stood beside Auren, his feathers ruffled, but his eyes bright. "You have roared twice," said the eagle. "Once for courage, once for truth. The third roar, when it comes, will change all of Elarion." Auren looked toward the horizon, where the meadows of Venalen lay, small and distant. "The flock will never accept me." Maru smiled faintly. "They don't need to accept you. They need to remember you." He lifted his wings. "Go, Auren. The flame waits where fear still reigns. Let them see what it means to be alive." Auren nodded. His reflection in the pool no longer frightened him. It stared back like an equal, fierce and serene. He turned toward the east, the wind followed him, and with each step, the grass seemed to whisper his name, not with fear this time, but with reverence. The plains of Elarion stretched endlessly before Auren, golden waves swaying in the wind, whispering stories of time and memory. He had walked through storms, fought shadows, and seen his own reflection in the fire of truth. Yet this road, the one that led home, was the hardest of all. The flock of Velen had long forgotten him. To them, the lion that once grazed among them was a ghost, a warning whispered to lambs. "Beware the one who believed he was one of us." But Auren was not returning for their love. He was returning for their freedom. As the sun dipped low, the first lights of the meadow appeared, tiny sparks glowing in the dusk. He paused, remembering the scent of wild clover, the laughter of the flock, Eldon's gentle voice. "Safety lies in sameness." The words returned like a ghost, but Auren now heard something beneath them, a fear that had once ruled not just the sheep, but himself. He exhaled slowly.
no more. The lion walked on.
When the flock first saw him, panic erupted. Sheep scattered, bells clanged, cries filled the air. Mara, now older, her wool silver with age, stepped forward, trembling. Back, back all of you. It's him, the beast from the storm. Auren did not roar. He simply stood in the middle of the field, his golden mane glowing in the last light of dusk. I came to warn you, he said softly. The wolves will return. They always do. Mara glared. We've lived in peace since you left. You bring only danger. Auren's heart sank. The same fear, the same blindness, it had rooted deeper than he'd imagined. But before he could answer, a sound rolled from the forest, deep, low, and terrible. A howl. Then another, and another. The horizon darkened with movement. Ravok's followers, dozens of them, their eyes glowing green like dying embers. He's back, whispered Mara. You led him here. Auren's gaze hardened. No, I came to end what he began.
The wolves poured from the trees like living smoke, their growls a chorus of hunger and hate. At their head marched a new leader, taller, fiercer, bearing the same emerald fire that had once burned in Ravok's eyes. It was Vera, the fallen wolf queen. She carried in her jaws a shard of green crystal, the remnant of the shadow flame. You killed my mate, she snarled. Now you'll burn in his place. The ground trembled as the flame pulsed. Auren felt its heat crawl up his spine. The flock screamed and huddled together, hundreds of trembling bodies, blind with terror. Elder Maru's voice echoed in his mind. The third roar will come not from anger, but from love. Auren closed his eyes. The meadow, the flock, even Mara, all of them had rejected him, but they were still his kin. They had raised him, fed him, loved him once. He stepped forward, placing himself between the wolves and the sheep. You will not touch them. Vera laughed. You still play the shepherd? You are no savior, lion. You are the curse that woke the fire. The green flame burst from the crystal, twisting the air into darkness. Shadows clawed at the ground, swallowing the light. But beneath that storm, another light began to rise.
Auren dug his claws into the earth. He remembered the valley, the mirror pool, his mother's face. He remembered Eldon's sacrifice, Maru's teachings, the roar that had shaken the mountains. And then he remembered himself. His breath grew steady, his chest burned. The golden light inside him, once small as a spark, now blazed like a sun. Vera charged. The wolves followed. The ground split open as Auren rose onto his hind legs and released a roar that shattered the sky. It was not fury. It was truth. The sound tore through the shadow flame, breaking its grip on the world. Wolves halted mid-stride, their eyes clearing. The green light burst like shattered glass, vanishing into the air. Vera stumbled backward, howling. No, the shadow cannot die. Auren stepped closer, his voice steady. The shadow doesn't die, it learns to kneel before the light. He touched his paw to the ground. The grass around him caught fire, not with heat, but with light. The meadow shone gold. The sheep fell silent. Vera's final scream faded into dust.
When silence returned, the air was different, thinner, purer, full of energy. The roar still echoed across the hills, bouncing off every mountain and forest, reaching creatures far and wide. Elder Maru, high in the clouds, smiled. The third roar has spoken. The balance is restored. In distant lands, the rivers glowed faintly. trees bowed, and stars flickered in unison, all of Elarion awakening to the sound of truth. The flock, once trembling, now stood in awe. They approached slowly, eyes wide. "You saved us," whispered a young lamb. "We thought you were our curse," said another. Auren looked at them, not with pride, but with warmth. "You were never my curse. You were my beginning." He turned to Mara, whose old eyes glistened. "I was wrong," she said. "You were never meant to be one of us, but you were never apart from us either." Auren lowered his head gently. "We are all born with a flame. Some guard it, some forget it, but it belongs to us all." And for the first time in memory, the flock bowed, not in fear, but in respect. Weeks passed. The meadow healed. The wolves who survived laid down their weapons of instinct and swore fealty to the flame. Under Auren's guidance, predator and prey began to rebuild what had been lost, a harmony older than any throne. Elder Maru returned to the valley, now roosting atop the high cliffs to watch over the reborn land. Every dawn, Auren would walk to the hill where his mother's name was carved upon the stone, a silent monument of gold and ivy. He would close his eyes and whisper, "The flame burns on, Mother, and so do we." And when the wind answered, it carried her laughter through the valley, soft, eternal, unbroken. Years passed. The story of the lion who lived among sheep spread across Elarion. Some called him Auren the Flame-Bearer. Others simply called him the Roar Beneath the Ashes. They said his voice could calm storms, that his gaze could ignite courage in the faintest of hearts. He was no king in the old sense, no throne, no crown, but his kingdom stretched far wider than any border. The animals of Elarion lived in balance once more, and when new cubs were born under the crimson moon, the elders would whisper this story by the fire. There was once a lion who forgot he was a lion. He grazed among sheep, believing he was one of them. But when darkness rose, he remembered who he truly was, and his roar awakened the world. And so, my child, if ever you find yourself lost among those who do not see your light, remember this. The world will try to name you, to tell you who you are, what you can be, how high you may climb. But only you can open the door to your own flame. You may live years in silence, thinking yourself small. But when the time comes to roar, the heavens will listen. For the light never dies, whispered the elder, closing his book. It only waits beneath the ashes.